and may be published on the EU EOM Sierra Leone 2023 or European Commission social media, website publications, brochures, flyers, even documentations. Selected images will be stored for the period that is necessary for the purposes for which they have been collected. The images not used will be permanently deleted after this event. Saying of that, I will pass the floor to our Chief Observer.
Thank you very much, Lukas, and good afternoon, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, estimated members of the press. I am delighted, of course, to be back here in Sierra Leone again, here in Freetown, to present the European Union's election observation mission's final report. As you know, we presented the preliminary report in June when I was here, 2 days after the election day, but the election is a process. So it starts before the elections, during the election day, and after the election days. So it is my honor to present the final report. I will speak about the report very shortly, but first let me express my appreciation to the Minister of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation and to the Electoral Commission for Sierra Leone for having invited the European Union to observe these elections and for their readiness to continue a fruitful engagement with the European Union. This final report I am presenting today is the most important part of our election observation here in Sierra Leone. This report gives a comprehensive and evidence-based account on the 2023 general elections and offers 21 recommendations aimed at improving the way elections are organized, managed, and conducted in the future. I will speak about the way forward very shortly. But before that, I will give a brief account on the mission's work here in Sierra Leone. Our team arrived in Freetown in mid-May. By the end of May, we already had our long-term observers deployed to all 16 districts of Sierra Leone, where they observed the work of the election management bodies and election preparations. Our observers also observed numerous rallies and met with candidates across the political spectrum. They also engaged with citizen observers, human rights and democracy activists, as well as with journalists. Our dedicated teams of media and social media monitoring were observing how the campaign unfolded in the traditional media and online. So both online and offline. On election day, more than 100 observers went to polling stations in all 16 districts of Sierra Leone to observe the opening, voting, and counting of the ballots. So 100 EU observers. After the closing of the polls, our observers were present at all tally centers, following the tabulation of results. Our analysts were at the National Tally Center when the final results were announced. To sum it all up, in line with the well-established EU methodology, we were on the ground since the start of the campaign. Our observers were present during each and every step of those elections, gathering a wealth of information in the process. These knowledge, analyses, and first-hand observations are the basis of our final report. I know you all are eager to hear our overarching assessment of this process. First, I would like to stress that these 2023 general elections underscored a clear commitment among the Sierra Leone people to the democratic processes. Citizens in large numbers actively participated in the electoral process before and during the election day with dedication, with patience, and resolve to exercise their democratic right. On election day, voters patiently waited to cast their ballots. Dedicated poll workers strived to ensure a smooth voting. Citizen observers were at all polling centers, and journalists provided regular reports. This was a very strong and encouraging sign. However, there were also issues that we, as a friend of Sierra Leone, observed and are imperative to address. Firstly, political violence shrank the space of political participation. This was observed by the EU Election Observation Mission in at least 6 districts. We also saw disproportionate use of force by security agencies on several occasions. And here I want to stress, violence has no place in elections, neither here in Sierra Leone nor anywhere else on the globe. Also, I want to speak about the tabulation of results that proved to be a key issue, a tipping point, to be a key issue, a tipping point. The ECSL did not ensure transparency at this very crucial stage of the process. Our observers, as well as citizen observer at the Tally Center, could not conduct a meaningful observation of the tabulation of results. Despite repeated calls from observers, the ECSL did not publish the disaggregated result data. Lack of transparency and limitation on independent scrutiny leaves space for doubt and stains an election. This takes me to the most important part of our final report, the recommendations. The elections highlighted an urgent need for reforms to enhance transparency and inclusion. To build overall trust in future electoral processes, and we, as observers and friends of Sierra Leone, have identified 7 priority areas where result steps are necessary to uphold regional and international standards for democratic elections and to help democracy strive. In total, there are 21 recommendations, but we found 7 priority areas. Our first 3 priority recommendations advocate for an enhanced transparency in the conduct of elections. First step would be the publication of the final voter registry per polling station. Our second recommendation calls for publishing detailed procedure for the tabulation and establishing a robust and transparent results processing system. Our third recommendation encourages publication of comprehensive results data per polling stations online. Those recommendations are key trust-building measures. The next 3 recommendations are to fight impunity and to promote the rule of law. Namely, we recommend ensuring safety and security of all candidates, and to promptly hold perpetrators of violence accountable. We also call for an enforcement of restrictions on use of various state resources for political gain, and for ensuring transparency and accountability in campaign finances. The 7th priority recommendation is about genuinely protecting freedom of expression online and offline by removing ambiguous definitions related to the cyber crimes. Those are the priority areas we have identified, but let me speak about some other points, very important observations that we have made. First, we saw positive steps and encouraging legal reform aiming to promote women participation in political life. I want to stress that those are very important reforms. Following these elections, 30% of elected members of parliament are women. However, while the ECSL set up a system to ensure that the new rules to promote women political participation, political parties made efforts to circumvent it. Hence, I encourage political parties to make a reinforced commitment for greater gender parity, which will further enhance women's participation in public and political life. Another positive takeaway from the 2023 elections was the first ever national fact-checking initiative, iVerify. It was set up to equip voters with the reliable information and to safeguard the truth. Today, when disinformation and misinformation campaigns more and more often aim to distort reality, it's time to join forces and develop inclusive media and digital literacy programs. And here I'm not only encouraging civil society and media, but also on political actors and state institutions, as well as global tech platforms to tackle disinformation and misinformation. It is important to continue working together for a better informed society. Now, a few words about the importance of an independent, non-partisan scrutiny of elections. During these 2023 elections, civil society organizations played a crucial role. They engaged in voter education. Activities all across the country. They scrutinized various aspects of elections, and their timely reports offered voter reliability and non-partisan assessment of the process. Citizen Observer also conducted a credible parallel vote tabulation and voiced concerns. It proved the maturity and the resolve of Sierra Leone's civil society. Let me stress that it is essential for any democracy all across the globe that fact-based criticism is taken with respect and in good faith. Intimidation, punctuated by disinformation, has no place in a country whose leadership values freedom for expression and respects human rights. Now, after the elections, it is encouraging to see the establishment of a National Election Systems Review Committee. This could be the first step towards a comprehensive review of legal and operational aspects of elections. However, I would like to stress that the committee's success will hinge on its ability to bring together stakeholders representing all political and civil society spectra, on its ability to create the space of inclusion, trust, constructive dialogue, and consensus to bring about the adequate electoral reforms. I welcome that this committee aims to take into account the recommendations of electoral observers. I sincerely believe that the recommendations of our electoral observation mission can be a useful contribution to this important process. Let us all keep in mind that citizen observers and civil society organizations played a pivotal role in these elections. Different aspects and stages of the process and offered voters a non-partisan assessment of elections. And now, looking forward, their engagement in the electoral reform process will be paramount. I sincerely hope that reform proposals, including those made by the review committee, will be the fruit of an inclusive, open, and plural dialogue. Our task in Sierra Leone as Election Observation Mission is now completed, and the process ahead is in your hands. We have handed over our report to the ECSL and other electoral stakeholders, while the EU delegation will follow up with interlocutors in relation to what comes next. Let me conclude by stressing that it remains crucial to further foster democratic processes with a strong political will of all stakeholders in the society, to promote inclusion and transparency, and most importantly, to build public confidence. As a friend and an ally to Sierra Leone, the EU stands ready to support Sierra Leonean stakeholders and people in those efforts and in the implementation of these recommendations. It was a privilege to lead this mission, and I would like to thank all Sierra Leonean people and stakeholders from across the political spectrum and from all walks of life for your professional cooperation, and for their readiness to share your thoughts with this mission. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Evin. Yes.
Anthony Van is my name, and I work for Epic Radio 99.3 FM and Slick Television on Channel 37. So if the European Union were to put a percentage on the just concluded 2023 elections within the range of 1 to 10, what will be your percentage that you will give to the elections?
Well, we don't put a number on or should we take? Okay. We do not evaluate through putting a number on how the election have went. What we do is, and is in our mandate, is of course to observe the elections before the election day, during the election day, and post-election day, and then conclude with the observations that we have made. Which some part of it I just presented, and some part of it I should also say that you will be able to access directly after this press meeting.
So, Madam Edward Corker from Epic Radio and Slick TV. I have two questions for you. So the first question is, why so long before presenting this report? And the second, which you said in your report, the process ahead is based on our hands. What are these processes, and why is the European Union leaving these processes in the hands of Sierra Leoneans? Okay. Two questions. The first question is, why so long before presenting the report? And the second question is, you said in your report, process ahead is in our hands. Why this statement that the process is in our hands in Sierra Leoneans, and why is the European Union not involving in the process ahead?
Well, usually take a couple of months before the conclusion of the final report is made, and this is a common practice in after all the elections. And that is to ensure that the final report is as comprehensive as possible, as correct as possible, and we have gathered all the angles that are important, and to ensure also that the recommendations that are being put forward is addressing the challenges that has been observed. Yes.
The second question is, said, the process ahead is in our hands. So why is it that the European Union is leaving the process in the hands of Sierra Leoneans? And what does Sierra Leoneans hold in the process ahead?
Well, the implementation, from the side of the European Union, we have addressed the election through the recommendation, the 21 recommendations, which we'll be able to read after this press conference. However, we are, of course, if there is any need of assistance, the EU is ready to assist in the implementations of the recommendations that we have put forward. But in the end, it is up to the election committees and commissions in the countries and the institutions that are in charge to take on and accommodate those recommendations that are given by the different election observation missions. But we are, of course, prepared in all ways possible, if needed, by Sierra Leone to assist in the implementation.
Fode Moriba Conte, I write for the Calabash newspaper. My question, this is not the first time the European Union has been put forward recommendations when it comes to electoral process in Sierra Leone. And over the years, we've been doing that. So, from the previous recommendations to this one, what has changed when it comes to the electoral process in Sierra Leone? Is there any change when it comes to development and all? Then secondly, you spoke about the electoral committee, reforms committee, that has been set up by His Excellency. And the Vice President, who was the one he met for this current government is heading that particular committee. What is your take?
Well, to start with, on the issue of recommendations, every and each election is one of a kind. Therefore, also, when a new election observation mission is put in place and has been observing the special and specific election, recommendations will be, of course, addressing those observations that we have made during that specific election. And when it comes to the review committee, we, of course, hope and we are that the recommendations will be accommodated within the process, and look forward also to if there should be any kind of a need of assistance from our side, from the side of Sierra Leone and the committee, to help out in the process. But who is leading the committees? It is in the hand of course, the country and Sierra Leone. But we are here in case of need of any kind of assistance.
Summer and working for the TV, normally now I want to just give you two sayings. Beating the dead horse and then chewing more than you can bite. Now the European Union knows exactly that the elections that took place had over 11,000.8 polling stations, and the observers were not even up to 1,000. And they are coming up to give words that like transparency and the other jargons and comments given about our elections. Don't you think you are biting more than you are chewing? That's what
I would say that we had over approximately 104 even, the specific number of election observers at the election day. And we had many election observers, long-term observers, including also the core team previous to the election day. And those stayed also after, a couple of weeks after the election day. So in this context, I would say that we have got as good view as possible, but of course, the EU election observation mission is a part of a bigger also election observation mission. AU also had its election observation mission. ECOWAS had also their election observation missions. But with this said, I think that I can very comfortably say that what we are presenting is as holistic as possible, and with quite many election observers, and gives as fair view as possible. But of course, this is based on the election observations that we have made, and we hope that these recommendations that we have been put forward will also meet the feelings that the people of Sierra Leone or some people might have had, and could address those shortcomings that other actors have also seen. So these are recommendations from our sides and the observations that we have made in the places that we have observed. But we had quite significant amount electoral observers.
I am Mohamed Al-Kamal, writing for Daily Scope newspaper. In your report, you mentioned that the elections results were not transparent. And now last week, Tuesday, the flag bearer of the All People's Congress, APC, Kamara, claimed that indeed the election results were rigged. Don't you think saying that you say that the election results were not transparent gives a farmer?
I think the microphone is too loud. Yes.
Would you please try again?
Yes.
Can you please try?
A bit further away. Yes.
Can you please try again?
Well, I am Mohammed Al, writing for Dates newspaper. Last week Tuesday, the flag bearer of the All People's Congress reaffirmed their stance that indeed the June 24 elections were rigged. And now you are saying that the election results were not transparent. Don't you think you are giving the main opposition party more strength to build on their stance that indeed the election results were fraudulently rigged against them?
Well, we don't take, or what we do as the EU Election Observation Mission is to present the observations that we have made. And based on the observation that we have made, not anyone else, but that the 104 observers from the EU have made, we conclude and make a report out of it, and then we also present the recommendations that I mentioned. So everything that I presented by now and that will and is within the final report is based only, solemnly, on the observations that we have made.
You spoke about EU having 104 elections observers, and we have more than 11,000 polling stations. Now, you said the tabulations were not transparent. Did you think or understand that the elections governing Sierra Leone, they are governed by laws, and the ECSL went through the laws and they dealt with the laws governing the electoral processes? That's my question.
When we observe elections, we of course take into account the national laws, the regional regulation, and international regulations. Some of the challenges that we have seen is addressed in the final reports that you will be able to access on shortcomings and areas of improvements. And those 21 recommendations will also meet the challenges that we have seen. And there is, of course, there are areas of improvement, and some of the areas I just mentioned on the 7 priority areas, for example. And the main focus of our final report is actually on transparency, inclusion, and accountability. And that, of course, means that all the institutions should, and we hope and that all the institutions that is affected and has been part of the elections will take on the 21 recommendations that we have made. Of course, that also includes the ECSL, but other institutions also and other actors.
Yeah, Sir Aikomba, writing for Salon Times newspaper. You said you put forward recommendations to the government in order to act on them. Let's imagine that the government does not act on the recommendation. Do you have anything in mind to either punish or compel the government to work on those recommendations? Thank you.
Thank you very much for all the questions. Well, usually what the European Union does after an election observation mission is to follow it up with a follow-up mission to see how far the implementation of the recommendation have come. So we hope to be able also to do it in this case, and we are prepared if there is any kind of need to assist in the implementation of these recommendations that are based on our observations. But usually the European Union also follows up with a follow-up mission.
Yeah, my name is Alaji Toure. I work for Eagle Africa Radio. Since the election, June 24, 2023, and up to date, Sierra Leoneans are relying on the European Union and other partners. And now that you have said about these final reports, what will be the next stage?
Next stage is that we now officially have handed over the final report. I have myself met the president earlier today. I have myself met the Minister of Foreign Affairs, and I have met representatives of the ECSL and also, of course, the Vice President. And we have also showed our continued commitment through standing prepared for assisting in the implementation if needed. But with this press conference and these days, the conclusion of the election observation mission, or the election observation mission, will be concluded. Nevertheless, as I just mentioned, usually the EU also follows up with a follow-up mission to have a continued dialogue with those responsible or in charge of the process, the continued process in the specific countries, also here in Sierra Leone. So we are now finally handing over the final report, and we stand ready to assist.
Yes, I am King Kapur Taleba, of course, Acting President, Civil Society Union Sierra Leone. Is there any recommendation for a rerun of the elections? There is one. Two, of course, elections are meant for reflection of the votes of the people. And in such a situation where it's controversial, do we have any withdrawal of support from the European Union if the recommendations are not implemented by government? These are the two questions. Thank you.
Thank you. I can just once again reiterate that our observations and also the recommendations are putting the light on the challenges and addresses the challenges through recommending for future elections proposals on recommendations. So, and it is not in our mandate to decide on any kind of rerun or not. What we do is to observe and put forward recommendations on proposals for future elections. And as I once again mentioned, we have usually a follow-up mission to see how the recommendations have been accommodated. That is our way of showing that we stand ready for the implementations of the recommendations. Of course, our presence here in Sierra Leone is our commitment towards the people of Sierra Leone and for the democratic processes. But we can, what is in our mandate is to observe and then recommend recommendations that we have made.
My name is Arthur Coker. I write for the New Numbered newspaper. You were about 10% covering the election nationwide. What yardstick did you use to give a holistic figure of how the elections was run? During the day of the result.
Well, once again, this the final report is based on the presence of our election observers in all 16 districts and in all tabulation centers also, I should say. So we have based on our observations with over 100 observers. It's significant amount of observers based then our final report based, we have concluded our final report based on those observations. So this is our observations, and we hope that this could be a part of addressing the challenges that we have seen and observed, and that we have also heard from different stakeholders that they have seen.
Good evening. My name is Abdurrahman Jalal, working for the Sarah Reporters. My question here is, I know, of course, the European Union doesn't have the right to announce results. It's only the ECSL. So if you say you have problems with the tabulation, right? So who do you think emerged as the winner in the 2023 elections?
Well, we do not, that's not in our mandate, and we do not make decisions on the conclusions of who won or not won. What we do is we observe the election processes. So, and the process actually starts before the election day, during the campaign, and then it continues during the election day, and then it also continues post-election day. So it's the whole election process per se that we are looking at, not the results as in who won or who didn't win. So the process is what we are observing.
Yes, I'm Solomon Ray Wilson, editor of Sankara newspaper. You said there were problems with tabulations. But you know, we want to raise one thing, that elections are governed by law. And our election in 2023 was conducted according to the laws of Sierra Leone, which means there is no law that says we should publish disaggregated results or whatever. It's a recommendation which I think we'll look into in the future. I just want to thank the EU for painstakingly taking the pains to come over here. But I think our elections were conducted according to our laws, and there is no reason for anybody to say that tabulations were not done according to the laws of Sierra Leone. If the elections were done according to the laws of Sierra Leone, then everything was credible, and the winner is the winner.
Well,
But please, our chief observer is speaking. Can you please refrain? Thank you.
Well, we do observe it based on national laws, and this concerns, of course, all election observation missions that we make. National law, regional law, and international, or national law, regional and international commitments. And there are regional and international standards also. And those recommendations that we make is, of course, based on the international standards. And based on the observations that we have made, and we hope, of course, that the recommendations will be taken into account.
Right. My name is Ali Kaloko, the editor-in-chief, Sarah Reporters Online. Of course, we know when it comes to elections, I want to reference from His Excellency, of course, there are contentious issues. But you as European body, the people of this country strongly depends on you when it comes to recommendations, findings, and also observations. So if you are now saying you have left everything in the hands of Sierra Leone government, of which some people are saying they do not trust the process. So what I'm trying to say here is that it's like you are leaving the people of this country in a state of limbo, whereas we don't know, because some are saying there's going to be a rerun, some are saying that there's going to be a rerun. Some are claiming there are laws that govern this country, and you are also saying we have international laws. So you are putting all of us in a state of limbo. So you want to know where actually are we going as a nation?
because the election observation mission has concluded its work, it doesn't mean that the dialogue between the European Union and with Sierra Leone has ended. Of course, the election observation mission is independent from other EU institutions because we were here, we observed, and then based on our recommendations on our observations. And we usually also follow it up with a follow-up mission. At the same time, there is a continued cooperation and dialogue between Sierra Leone and the European Union. And I want to reiterate and stress that we stand ready for the people of Sierra Leone to assist in any kind, if there are any kind of need for the implementations of the recommendations. Because the recommendations is based on our observations and it's based on dialogue with different actors.
Ladies and gentlemen, we will take two last questions, and our final report should be published online soon, so you will be able to take a look by yourself.
Yeah, my name is Ahmed Babakano, working for Eagle Radio. And initially, according to your statement, you mentioned two state institutions that they are very poor in their performance during and before and after the elections. Those two institutions are the National Security Forces and ECSL. According to your recommendation, do you think, based on their poor performance before and during and after the election, lead to the rigging of the elections?
Should we take both the question? Yes, the other question.
Yeah, and the second one.
No, we can take both questions. I can address them.
Madam Insel, we stand ready for the people, was the statement you made just now. And one of the recommendations you said entirely is the ambiguity of the cybercrime. Can you please dissect what is ambiguity of the cybercrime? Because we wish to know as journalists, what are these ambiguity that you recommended as part of the report you've already given? What are the ambiguity of the cybercrime?
First, the question on the work of the National Security and ECSL, if I heard it correctly. And there are, as I also stressed in my speech, there are challenges that needs to be addressed. We saw incidents of violence occurring, and violence nowhere on the globe during elections should be accepted. So this means that there are challenges that needs to be addressed, and in the recommendations we are also putting forward recommendations on the areas how to address the challenges that occurred with security, for example, and that to ensure that those that has been behind the violence that has occurred are also in the future rapidly being put in front of justice, that perpetrators also are put in front of justice as soon as possible to ensure the smooth and violence-free elections for all candidates, but also for the people when they go to the polling station to cast their votes, because everybody needs to feel that they can cast their votes in a safe and secure manner. And the other question was on the cybercrime law. These definitions. Okay. So I will read from the recommendations. Protect freedom of expression by clearly aligning the definition of cyber terrorism, cyber stalking, cyber bullying, and incendiary information with the relevant regional and international standards. So it's cyber, as I mentioned, cyber terrorism and cyber bullying, among others.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
And that will be all from our side. Some hard copies of reports are waiting for you outside this room, so you can take them. As I mentioned before, also soft copies should be already on our website. So thank you.
I just also want to finally thank all of you for being here today. And if there are any kind of further questions, we are still here, or many of the answers are also in the final report. Thank you very much.